Remember back in January, there was a brother in Mississippi who was a FedEx driver who was shot at, and a lot of folks were saying, well, is this a real or not? Well, actually, it wasn't a hoax. A Mississippi grand jury has indicted a white father and his son who allegedly shot at him. The Lincoln County grand jury charged Gregory and Brandon Case with attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and shooting into a motor vehicle after they allegedly chased down D'Monterrio Gibson. The case is expected to go to trial in May of 2023. Renee, I want to start with you. I mean, this reminds people of the Ahmaud Arbery case. Here's a brother simply doing his job, dropping off packages, and he gets fired at. And again, when the story first broke, there were people who said that he actually made it up, and he went through all sorts of trauma. And when this happened, almost lost his life. Now we actually see, but this was investigated as a hate crime, and some are even calling for the sheriff in that city, of that town, to be actually to resign because of their lack of due diligence in investigating.
Absolutely. As a resident of Georgia, this case absolutely reminds me of the Ahmaud Arbery story, which is a very similar story of a father and son chasing down a black man who was running through the neighborhood to get exercise. And they said they did not recognize him and thought that he was potentially breaking into houses, and they ran him down and they killed him. This story seems very, very similar. I think that it's going to be important to get to the bottom of this story and find out what happened in much more detail than what we already have. I'm glad that the father and son have been indicted, but further, more things, it needs to be looked into what else they have been up to, because if they acted this way with this FedEx driver, I doubt that that was their first time doing that. Additionally, it's very hard for me to believe that, when you look at the details of the story, the driver reports that he was in his FedEx uniform, but he was in a Hertz rental truck that was not marked FedEx. It's very hard for me to believe that this is the first time that FedEx has been told, hey, a black person going into random neighborhoods, we receive harassment that white drivers do not. So you're going to need to do something as far as when it comes to our security, possibly not have us driving around in unmarked vehicles, because that can lead to potentially deadly consequences for us. It's hard for me to believe that FedEx has never heard that before, but I suspect capitalism probably is a reason that they have not made the necessary changes to protect black drivers. So that is something that needs to be looked into as well.
On Makonga, we've done many of these stories where UPS drivers trying to do their job were accosted and stopped. We've seen these other black folks out barbecuing and doing other things, and then people get the cops being called upon them. I mean, this is a perfect example. This is a brother just trying to do his job, and he almost lost his life as a result due to racism, due to hate crimes.
Absolutely, and this deserves as much attention as any of the cases where our members of our families have lost their lives. And the reason why I say that is because so many people feel like, oh, we only pay attention to people after they are killed. But if we don't pay attention to these stories when people are surviving these stories, then it's kind of like, oh, it's kind of like a, if it bleeds, it leads type of mentality. And just because his life was saved, it doesn't mean that his story is any less significant, because like we said, he literally could have died. And really, at the end of the day, we also have to pay attention. Dr. Malveaux talked about in the last section about how we need to pay attention to our young girls and black rage. And that's really important. When you talk about this story and we talk about Ahmaud Arbery, we also need to pay attention to the fact that these are father and son duos. So when people talk about racism is dying out because the older generation is dying and so on and so forth, they are bringing their kids in to further this new generation of hate and continue it on. And this guy may be in his 30s or 40s, but we know that there are younger parents who are doing it with kids who are younger than any of us here. And so if we don't stay vigilant, if we don't let this brother's story be heard, if we don't listen to his voice and make it insignificant just because he wasn't shot, hey, at least you didn't get killed, that's not enough. It is hunting season on all of us. And too many of us are losing our lives, but too many of us who survived as well are dealing with their own trauma. I also remember that FedEx didn't have his back in the beginning as well. I don't think they really believed him. So this brother needs all the support that he needs, that we can shine on it. We know that these other networks aren't going to do it the way that we do it. And we also need to be mindful of the fact, particularly with this fake critical race theory activism that's taken our history and stories out from our schools, we can expect to see more ignorance and hate from young people because they're clearly getting it from their parents.
And Julian, of course, these are state charges. You still have the possibility of federal charges. This is why elections matter. The Biden Department of Justice has been extremely aggressive when it comes to going after folks' various hate crimes. Kristen Clark and the Civil Rights Division, they've done that. And so these two individuals could also be facing federal hate crime charges as well.
They should be. Any charge there is should be thrown at them. I echo all of what both of my co-panelists have said. Well, listen, FedEx has some responsibility, and here's what they need to do. They need to stop delivering in places where it's not safe for Black drivers to deliver. What if they sent out a email blast to that neighborhood, 4 square blocks, and said, we will not deliver because our drivers are not safe. Right. Well, you can assure us that our drivers are safe, we will resume delivery. I mean, they're deliberately putting Black drivers at peril for capitalistic reasons. They're deliberately putting folks in peril. People rely on FedEx. I mean, yeah, people rely on FedEx. And a lot of people I know, myself included, would be bereft if they could not get FedEx. So it would be great if FedEx said, we're not just going to penalize their house. Obviously, they should never get a FedEx delivery again. But, 4 square blocks around it. That would cause neighbors to put peer pressure on each other. To say, look, man, I don't care whether you like Black people or not. Do not mess with the FedEx driver because I've got some important stuff coming to my house. There has to be a way that the community rises up and says this is just unacceptable.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Don't wait till November 8th. We can vote today, y'all. Early vote started this week.
We're on Savannah State University's campus. We will be dorm storming today, giving out treats for everyone. We hope to see everyone at the polls when it comes to November.
If you believe we got power, let them know. Make some noise. Put a fist up. I need to see a fist in the air because we got power. Come on, you put it up. Go get your shirt. We're out here in the streets of Savannah, Georgia. James, do not forget to go vote. I got you. If we vote the right people in, we can make a change. We can get these resources in our community.
I am a woman, and it is important that we have the say-so of what we want to do with our bodies.
We're concentrating on entrepreneurism, providing young people with resources and training that they need in order to change their trajectories. We want Black down. Democracy is on the ballot. Voting rights is on the ballot. Voting suppression is on the ballot. I am most passionate about those three combined because they all impact each other.
Savannah is my home. I care about my community, and I care about representation in my community.
Our voices are still going to be heard no matter what kind of obstacles try to come up against us to stop us from voting. We're still going to be standing our ground.
I see the effort that's being made to keep our communities from voting. So that makes me realize it's even more important because if it wasn't important, they wouldn't be fighting to make sure we could vote.
This doesn't stop this year. This is a forever movement.
We're going to exert our power as a people, walk in our rightful place. We're going to change our communities, fight for our communities, and build our communities.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?